can see behind me, my new wheels and tires came in for the Mini. So, well, this box came mangled, but that's the first wheel I took out just to make sure it's not dented and destroyed. But because I am keeping 4-lug on the front and 5-lug on the back, I needed a set of wheels that matches but comes in both bolt patterns. So the only thing I could find that comes in a full set in the offsets I need are these 17 by 7.5 Vision wheels. So the rears are a 5 by 120 with a 38 mil offset, and the fronts are a 4 by 110 with a 38 mil offset. And here is Lonnie. Hello, Lonnie. And Almond. Yeah, they like new wheels too. Yeah, there you go. So here are the new tires. They are a 225 45 17, and this is the reveal of the new wheels for the Mini. They're very similar to what I had on it before, other than they don't have a lip. The other ones had a polished lip, and these are I don't know if they're called gunmetal or some other sort of gray, but they do have a metallic to them. I mean, I think they'll look good on the car, especially for being pretty much my only option for wheels without having to custom fab some stuff to convert the rear to 4-lug or the front to 5-lug. So I think these are going to look great. The wheels I have on it are 17 by 7.5 too, but I had 215s on there. So I figured I'll just get new tires all together, go a little wider, and sell the wheels I had on it before that are only like a year old. Yeah, I'll have a matching set of wheels front and back, even though I have 2 different lug patterns on the car. That is exciting. I will continue this video when I take these things to get mounted. Okay, it's a nice rainy morning, and I'm finally going to take my wheels and tires to get mounted. So, the rest of the back of the car is finally done. So I'm just waiting on wheels and tires to be able to finish up on the back of the car and turn it around. Water already. So let's go get these things mounted at my local tire shop, who always do my tires for Colorado and truck and everything else. Alright, let's go. Alright guys, got my new wheels back, tires are mounted. So here are the old ones I had on the Mini, and well, there goes one, but these are the new ones. I mean, basically the same style. They're different brands, but gunmetal instead. So these are my 5 lugs that are going to go on the rear. And these are the 4 lugs that'll go on the front. And yes, they had to be multi-patterned on each wheel because that's the only way these were offered. So there's that. These now I believe are these are a 225 45 18. The old ones were 215. I went up a little bit on size to fill up the wheel more. But being a Mini, I mean, these things aren't designed to have, you know, 265 or bigger tires on them. And at the ride height I want, this is pretty much the biggest size I could go without putting on flares and all that. And I don't want to flare this thing. I'd rather it look decently stock on the outside. I can get the rear suspension back on the car since the fuel tank is back in, and get the diff and everything in, and this thing will be a roller once more. And then I can finally turn this thing around and start finishing the front end, because now that the rear suspension's done, I mean, I feel like that was the hardest part. This is all going to be the easier, fun stuff, making everything fit nice, making everything look good. And once all the hot side and everything's done, I am going to pull this motor back out and build it. So, alright, let's get the back end back together. Okay, diff is in, and it's time to get this thing buttoned up for what should hopefully be for good. Got everything laid out down here. I'm going to start with the upper control arms, and then I'm going to put the trailing arms on. And then I have these new adjustable lowers that I'm going to put on, because with this thing's lowered ride height, I'd like to have some more control over camber. So I'll have some camber adjustment on those things. Factory has camber adjustment on these, these eccentric bolts, but it's usually not enough when you're lowered and modified. So either way, I got those lowers because I guess they look fancy. Major problem with the all-wheel drive conversion on this thing. I have all this hooked up already in the rear. I went to test fit one of my wheels and realized I should have taken measurements for the trailing arms when I had them side by side. Because clearly I overlooked something, because the wheel is not center and there is no adjustment for that. So my plan of attack now is pull the wheel back off, measure my hub center to the center of the wheel well at ride height. Right now this is ride height because I have the trailing arm on jack stand, so the rear is under load. And then I'm going to measure how much forward it has to go, and I have to modify that front, whatever it's called, the trailing arm mount that bolts to the body. Which hopefully doesn't throw my diff measurement off too far. Because right now, I did take photos. We are going to have to pull this front wheel forward probably close to 2 inches. So I may need to slot out my holes now, instead of making new ones. Slot out my holes on the, can't even see, on the rear diff brace and the front mount to slide the diff forward to make up for it. I may have to, we'll see. Real downer. Should have used a tape measure when I first got the parts in and compared them. Okay, so car is still at ride height. Gave myself a tape mark. I'm doing it on both sides just to verify I don't have anything weird going on one side. Gave myself 2 tape marks so I can measure from the same spot every single time. And I will walk you through how I'm measuring for these changes. I don't even know where the camera's pointing. Alright, there it is, below. So from bottom of tape to bottom of tape, I am at 27.5 inches across for the diameter of the wheel well. So center would be at 13 3/4, and it is currently at 12 3/4. So trailing arm has to come forward a full inch to center in the wheel well at ride height. That's a bummer, but an inch isn't that much, I guess. So I'm just gonna go swing on the other side, verify I've got the same thing going on. And then looks like I'm gonna try not to drop the trailing arm this time since I hooked up all my control arms and everything. I'm gonna try to just drop the front and get that chassis mount off. Because I want to do all my modifications to the chassis mount itself. I don't want to do anything to the trailing arm. I don't want to do anything to the body of the car. I just want to modify that mount. I mean, another cheap solution for this thing would be jack the back of the car up and not worry about rubbing, but I'm not going to do that. So yeah, gotta come forward a full inch. So here's my chassis mount. Yeah, there's my chassis mount. These things are, here, I'm just gonna do this. Imagine front of the car is that way. These things are slotted so that you can adjust your toe on the back of the car in or out with that slot. I need, sorry, I'm trying to visualize at the same time. I'm bad at keeping an image in my head. So I need this to come back this way. Well, it's going to go forward in the car, but I need these holes all back 1.25 inches. So what I'm going to do over this one's easy. This one's got plenty of metal. I'm going to slot a new hole up here. And I want to keep them slots too still, just so I have all the factory adjustment. I'm not just going to drill a hole. So that one's going to be slotted. These are going to be slotted, but I'm going to cut this out and then weld more metal on both sides. Probably use thicker plate too. This is just an example again. And weld more to that, and then bring those holes back 1.25 inches. And then clean everything up nice, and it'll be bolt right back in just like factory, just 1.25 inches forward. So, fairly simple fix, just requires more fab. So, yeah, I was really hoping to be done with this thing. Alright, so for my trailing arm mount modifications to get these things to fit, I need to move trailing arms, can't even talk, 1.25 inches forward in the car. So I drilled already new front holes after cutting out some metal here. I'm going to weld in some reinforcements at the end of all this to make up a little more strength again. But, didn't mean to show you that yet. This is my template with factory mounting holes. And it went like this. Factory mounting hole, factory mounting hole, factory mounting hole. So, I first drilled 1.25 inches up, or back of the front mount, so it moves the mount forward. And also on my car, I have both upper and lower fully adjustable control arms, and I want to move my wheels in about 1/4 inch so that my tire fitment's a little better. And I didn't order the right wheel offset, so I'm just giving myself the adjustability there. I could slot this bigger, but not needed for my car. So the trailing arm will be 1.25 inches forward in the car and 1/4 inch closer inward, because of the way I did this. Otherwise, if I only needed to move the trailing arm forward, I wouldn't offset it to the side like this. I would just go directly in line. So, those are my factory mounts. I cut those out because now I've got one of these, which are going to, I have more trimming to do still. This is just, I wanted to make a video while I still have time. So there is factory mount lines up there. There's on my new ones. I have to trim a little more over here. And my other new one, which is going to go over here. I will get all those clamped down on a table, and then finally weld these up and then grind all the edges, make it nice. So this entire factory R56 frame mount will be modified, sit 1.25 inches forward in the car and 1/4 inch further over. And again, I still have the toe adjustment slots in there, so I could still get an alignment like normal. And then my adjustable upper and lower control arms will make up all my camber and everything. So. Alright guys, ran out of time last night, so it's the next morning, and I'm going to weld up these modified mounts now. I'll just give you a kind of brief rundown again. So now I've got passenger and driver's side cut and the new holes on the top notch. So factory pattern lined up like that. So now I just have to line my top hole up, which is, well, it's a total of 1/2 inch over on the slot, but I could still overlap the factory factory settings, because from the factory I was lined up all the way over here, so I could still hit that point if I need to. So line that up, and square the rest of my bracket still. I can't do that on the camera right now because of one hand. So then I just need to weld up. Yeah, I have to grind that corner a little. Weld up one of those and weld up one of those, and then I will grind away my edges, round this off nicely, and those will be my new modified bracket mounts, or trailing arm mounts. And then once those are welded up and cleaned up and I test fit them, I'm just going to weld in some of these triangular pieces of scrap that I cut and reinforce this thing a little more, since I cut out a little bit of this metal support over here. So yeah, that's the plan. All right, let's see, line up. Ooh, okay. Everything lines up. Now I just got to tack it from the bottom, and I'll tack the passenger side. Now I can ground my table again. I think I'll walk when I cut the side, so I gotta get the fill. It's fine. Let's go around. Alright, cool. I'm gonna put this on the ground so it pulls against some nice concrete. Let's do this one. Alright, I have both all tacked in place, as you can see. So, I'm just going to go and weld these up and try to not overheat them too bad. I don't want to cook the entire bracket since I still have the bushing in here. Couldn't find polyurethane bushings to put in here, and these are still in really good condition. So, I'm going to keep them for now. Let's just start welding. Well, there's the upside of that one done. I'm going to take a cool down break with this thing while I sharpen my tungsten. So, it's on the ground. Okay, tungsten is sharpened, and I'm moving to the passenger side now just to not put too much heat in one piece at a time. This one I have a pretty big gap to fill on this side, so it's going to take a little bit more filler rod. Wish I had something thicker, but maybe not. Alright, so that's the bottom of the passenger side finish. So I finally finished these things. Round my edges off a little bit because I don't like sharp edges. I welded on these pieces of scrap here. Still some 1/4" plate just to add a little more support back in there. Because everything pushes forward on this thing, and I don't know, I figured more metal doesn't hurt, right? So I grab my burnt template again and line it up with my new top hole. Can't really get it. Ta-da! Everything lines up. So these should bolt straight on like factory once again, and I have no alignment issues. And again, with the adjustable upper and lower control arms, I should have no problem getting this thing to align. And it is time to go to my day job, so see you guys. Okay, so it's the next day after I painted these things, and here are my complete new modified trailing arm mounts. So let's get these things back on the car, and hopefully these work and solve all my issues. Alright guys, well that worked better than expected. I got both of the chassis mounts on, trailing arms bolted up, and I don't have the upper control arms up right now because I don't have the adjustable ones yet. I did order them, they're in the mail. But the wheels now fit and are center in the wheel well, which is great. And I moved the entire thing 1/4" inwards, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot when it comes to wheel fitment, because I want these things to be pretty much flush with the outside of the wheel well, but not have any negative camber, which I had to have before with the 42 offset wheels. And these are 38s with wider tires. So I really hope I could keep it neutral or just barely any negative camber, because when this thing does pulls, it will squat. So, but either way, I'm happy with the fact that my measurement was right and everything is nice and center, even gap on both sides. So that's great. Now I just have to wait until the adjustable upper control arm shows up, and then I can bolt that thing on and then get my camber and everything set correctly. This thing's still going to get an alignment once it finally drives, but obviously can't get an alignment right now. So yeah, happy about that. Finally on to the next stuff. Alright guys, a few days later after I got those trailing arms in, and I got another set of aftermarket control arms, and these ones are going to replace my uppers. Oh, this was just me mocking up my drive shaft angle after my modification. But yeah, I'm going to replace these upper control arms now with adjustables because I narrowed my rear track width by 1/4 to 1/2 inch to fit my wheels a little bit better when I modified those trailing arm mounts. So now with the adjustable uppers, I'm going to be able to actually dial this thing in and have no problem aligning it, even though I narrowed the factory track width. Alright, I got the new upper control arms on, and everything is installed back here. Now I just need to throw the rear brakes on, and I can finally bolt some wheels on, and it will be a roller again. Alright, rear suspension's all bolted up, and the rear wheels are on, and I kind of eyeballed a camber alignment, and everything actually looks, eyeball-wise, really good. Fits inside the wheel well, and if it squats, it should tuck into the wheel well instead of rubbing. And here is the rear end with the adjustable uppers and lowers. Everything fits. Gonna have to trim a little bit of the brake line bracket. It looks like it's very close to the trailing arm. That's not a big deal. I could either trim it or just bend it a little bit. That's just for the brake hose that comes back and clips onto the coilover and then goes into the caliper. I don't have the calipers on right now. I don't have the right bolts for them. I was trying to put the caliper brackets on, but where is it? But thread size is different from the original R56 ones, and I don't have the bolts to that, so I have to run and grab some, and it'll all be good. I'm gonna do brake lines and parking brake cables and everything when I pull the rear wheels back off finally to get the rear brakes done and get the axles in. Now I can order axles and get everything else done in the meantime. That's exciting. So, time to move on, finally.